Trump Tower in Las Vegas. What's the scoop?
Yeah, so this one, it felt much more like something they were trying to like capture a moment in time and like make a like iconic image in our heads.
Well, if there's not an iconic besides Trump getting shot, look at that.
Well, so think of this though. So like another weird thing, this dude, special forces from the same military base as the other guy,
Fort Bragg.
So in one day you have two military guys do this like crazy, a terrorist event.
Both Army.
Yeah, both Army, and like so if you're special forces, like you're trained to pretty much make explosives out of anything, right?
Yeah. Well, depending on his MO, like what his specialty was, but I mean, dude, they're trained on guns. They're trained on. I mean.
Like, you know how scenarios are going to play out pretty much.
Yeah, but do they train you on fireworks?
This
guy packed his trunk full of fireworks.
Well, that's what I'm getting up
weird.
to. Like, so, like, if you're a special forces guy and you're trying to inflict maximum damage and like create like a scenario where it's like a terrorist event, why do you pick like the strongest truck possible and then like the weakest explosion method possible? And then how does he get that close to Trump Tower? And like, there's a video in here that shows like he was literally like 10 feet away from the door. That's usually like where the valets are. Like, so. I want to know, like, when did he get here? How long was he sitting there for? Why didn't anybody go up to him? So, like, there's all these weird questions around this one, too.
And I'm so happy you're saying this because I didn't even see that angle. Bro, anything with Trump Tower, because I've been there multiple times, so all of them, and the one, there's always people around. There's always security, especially because it's Trump's property, bro, especially these past freaking 9 years, what they've done to this guy. But, yeah, this seemed, again, very, very suspicious. The guy had fireworks, gasoline cans, and you see the fireworks. Are you going to show the video of the explosion?
Yeah. We got the explosion in here.
Show this. It looks almost comical at the end. Dude, look at the fireworks. Look at the fireworks. Kelly goes, "Is this 4th of July?" I go, "No, Kelly, that's a bomb." But then Elon said something too, right, Brendan?
Yeah, he said the Cybertruck's the worst car bomb in the world because of the way it's built. And I mean, the thing's built like a brick shit house. Like Rogan tried to shoot it with
a bow and arrow,
like,
and it bounced off.
It bounced right off. And like you saw the picture where like just the back of this thing blew out, and the sides are still completely intact.
So Brendan, let me ask you a question, Brendan. What makes an Army veteran? I know because apparently the guy in Vegas had a Ukraine something shirt. Rob, can you look that up? He had a Ukraine freedom something shirt, just like the Ryan Ruth, these freaking psychotic people. What makes you do this? And by the way, he's the only one that died, correct?
Yeah, he was in the car too, in addition to all this.
He didn't get out of the car.
No, that I don't understand.
This gets to a point I wanted to discuss on this, actually, because there's a lot of people who are linking the two, the Bourbon Street truck attack and then this explosion.
I'm one of them.
I'm a little bit less than convinced. Like I see the way it lines up. They rented the trucks through the same rental app.
Yeah.
And they were both at Fort Bragg. Although, as you've mentioned before, Vinny,
50,000 people.
Yeah, the number of people who go through Fort Bragg, it's so much. It's hard to make that a connection.
Yeah.
But the type of attack was very different. Where look at Bourbon Street. This guy mimicked the same thing that's been happening in Europe since 2014. People who can't get guns will rent a truck and crash it into a festival. It happens at Christmas markets like a dozen times in the last decade and a half. It started in 2014, and there were two in 2014, then in like 2016, 17, 18, one in 2020, and then one just recently in December. This is what they do. They go around the barricades, they crash into the crowd, and then they die in a shootout with police, typically. This other one, this almost felt more like a ritual self-immolation as a form of political protest, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
like the person who burned
the guy did not get out of the car.
Yeah.
And like if you're going to set off a car bomb, typically you either want to be out of the car or you're trying to blow yourself up as part of the act. So this guy parks there, detonates the bomb, and it very clearly is the symbolism of Cybertruck, Trump Hotel.
Elon Musk.
He is trying to communicate a point.
Yeah.
And I think there's a risk to rushing to linking these two things into one giant national terrorism cell that's been activated all of a sudden. Because apparently this guy, again, it's weird that we now know everything about him. His social media account had posts of how much he hated Trump on it.
Well, I'm linking
his wife hating Trump.
I'm linking them, but not amongst this guy and the other guy. I'm linking them amongst the narrative they're trying to cast. Like the fact that we had so much information of it ready to go, and we know the hard things, but we don't know the easy things. Like we don't have any footage of him pulling up. We don't have a timeline of how long he was there for. Like, and his body's like eviscerated. So like the fact that there were 2 military guys that did something like this in the same day, I think they're trying to paint a certain picture and trying to.
And neither one of them are from the area. The guy, I don't know how far the drive is from Beaumont, Texas. They raided the guy's home in Houston, Texas for New Orleans.
Right.
But the guy from Colorado Springs to Las Vegas, that's a 12-hour drive. I looked it up. It's a 12-hour drive without having to stop and charge.
Yeah.
I have a Tesla.
Yeah.
Whenever I have to go anywhere, I have to stop and charge. It adds 20 minutes to the route usually, every time you stop and charge. For a Cybertruck, it's twice that amount. So this guy had to drive 800 miles. The range on those, I think, are 200 to 300. But the faster you go, the more the battery eats. The guy had to stop and charge 4 or 5 times. So neither one of these people, where they conducted the terrorist activities at, were in their home states. Both of them had to drive substantial amounts of distances to get to their intended targets.
Amy, what do you think about the whole situation? All of it all together.
I would say, well, judging by what you were saying earlier, you said that Elon made remarks that the Cybertruck is the worst type of truck to do
his first
that
tweet.
to. So does that mean that had it been a different truck, it likely would have been a far worse explosion?
Oh yeah, like it didn't
So-
even break the glass in the Trump door, and it's like 7 feet away.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd be interested in seeing what the Tesla truck looked like after. I'm not sure if you guys have any images of that. But yeah, just judging by that alone, it's very clear that this is just a political statement. Obviously, there has been, oh, there we go.
Yeah, nothing.
Wow. Okay, yeah, it's not even, I mean, it's bad.
So
it's not that
the
bad.
interior got shredded.
I mean,
but the
there-
trunk blew up instead of out to the sides,
Right.
which is what would have damaged the hotel.
Which doesn't make sense if you're a special force, bro. These guys are
Right.
not stupid, bro.
Exactly.
That is just a dumb. If that was, which it could, it could go that way, where it's just like him making a statement, going to hell with Elon and to hell with you. I'm gonna blow myself up. He did minimal damage. He used fireworks and gasoline like a freaking idiot.
Well,
And
think-
it's all
think-
culminated around this narrative that's been going around the last couple of weeks that, President Elon, and it's been very evident the way the left-wing media is trying to cause division and kind of play on Trump's ego a little bit there. So it almost feels like a culmination to that in sending a big message in the new year, having his truck explode outside of Trump Tower.
Well, think
Seemed
back,
pretty symbolic.
think back last year. There was that Air Force guy who set himself on fire outside of the Israeli
Oh,
embassy,
crazy.
screaming "Free Palestine" as his face melted off.
yeah.
Deciding to kill yourself in one of the most horrific ways possible, just so that you can
Did it
make
work?
some
Did they
kind.
free Palestine?
No,
You know what?
hasn't
Not
worked-
one
hasn't worked
person.
so
They
far.
doubled down.
But then there was also somebody who burned themselves outside of one of Trump's criminal trials
That's
in
what
New
I was
York.
His hand, right? Burned his arm.
Yeah, I think he survived, but was damaged.
Good.
But everyone is trying to recreate that moment of that monk who burned himself
Yeah,
alive. to
I just read
protest,
about
in
that the other
Nepal,
day
I
too.
think.
Yeah.
That's like become the leftist icon. If I can burn myself to make a political statement,
Yeah, or-
people don't realize how horrible it is to die by burning. It's like
Oh,
one
it's
of the worst deaths
So I asked the woman
imaginable.
that was on the New York train that nobody did anything about. She burned to death
Oh my
because the migrant from
Venezuela.
Venezuela,
Yeah.
Yes.
lit her on fire. And then, that's a horrible death. And then you watch that woman
She's just standing there.
standing there because I guess your nerves continue to work so you can get up
Oh
and
my
try and get
God.
help. But I can't imagine a worse way to die than doing that other than blowing yourself up in front of
Yeah.
a
But
hotel
it's-
that does nothing. You
it's
just
become-
damaged the Tesla truck.
It's become a symbol of how they make these political statements. So again, to compare it to the guy on Bourbon Street, he crashed the truck, very clearly had explosives he was hoping to use, but it seems like the truck got stuck. He couldn't use the explosives where he wanted. So instead he got out with his body armor and his assault rifle and he started engaging with the cops until they killed him, which was the whole goal.
Here's
I
the
mean,
thing.
the
God.
bomb seemed pretty janky. I mean, it was made of fireworks, right? Is there any possibility that this guy maybe did have an intention to get out, but because it was such a janky bomb, it detonated
could totally be-
potentially?
totally be
Or the door
possible,
lock.
you know?
Those doors lock sometimes out of your control.
Yeah, no, you never know. But
You don't know
Yeah,
what could happen.
and that's the thing. I mean,
He
we
may
never
not have
know
been a suicide bomber.
because the FBI is so untrustworthy. We're never gonna know. But I think the goal and who knows going to be behind it. Because in that same interview with Sean Ryan, that girl Sarah was like, Russia. There's reports that Russia could be funding these people, giving them weapons and doing whatever they're going to do here to get back at us for Ukraine. Who knows what guys, the end goal is what? If terrorism is back, because listen, the war on terror is such a brilliant, disgusting thing that, Bush and all those sons of bitches did and moved to Obama and all these people. The war on terror is so brilliant because there's no face, there's no person. It's such a blanket war on terror, and it goes away for 4 years, and then it comes back in style like bell-bottom jeans. They're like, hey, The war on terror is bad because the end goal is if all these people are funding, and what's the end game? It's for us to go to war in the Middle East. Plain and simple. If think about this because we're moving on. If 5 back-to-back explosions start happening, I'm talking about suicide bombers in major cities, Rob. I'm talking about they hit New York, they hit LA, Chicago, Philly, explosions everywhere, and it's terrorists, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, FU. You know what we're going to do? They're going to announce, because they're going to have to, Trump is going to have to do it, we have to go to war. We got to go back to war. We have to fuck up Iran. We have to go back to freaking Afghanistan with the worst withdrawal from Biden. That's what's going to happen. That's what this is going to lead to.
And the fact
Yeah,
that
they
it's
want
ISIS,
Iran, but so like I mean, honestly the most valuable thing I learned, like I didn't learn shit in national security school, but the one thing I did learn that made me not end up going to work for the government is that our government's the biggest terrorist. Like the terrorist groups that they talk about all the time, they create those terrorist groups because they're super beneficial to them. You know, they start off as friendly rebels that are fighting against the regime that we want to take down. And then they become the justification for military spending and sending people overseas. And then they become the scare tactic if they have them, come here and do things like what they're doing right now. Like I'm like probably well over 50% sure that this was facilitated by our government.
Would you, Brandon, at this point, could you put it past them at all?
No, I'd be surprised if it wasn't them.
Yeah, can you imagine? We're like, we didn't do it this time.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, because I mean, they
prove it.
Yeah, they showed their true colors with what they did with Trump. The shit that the FBI, from Russia collusion to everything, there's zero credibility. Zero. So I don't put it past them. I don't know definitively. I just don't put it past them.
You know how we stop it though? So if any of these guys get caught, or if we're like in combat with any of them, just soak your bullets in pig's blood, and then that means they're not going to go to Allah. They're not going to have their 1,000 virgins. They're going to go to fucking hell by their rules. So soak the bullets in pig's blood. If they get caught, that's the death penalty. You know, bullet by pig blood.
but that's Islamophobic, Brandon.
Good.
We're not allowed to do that.
Why?
See, to quote the old Norm Macdonald bit, I'm worried about what happens if ISIS gets a dirty bomb and detonates it in a populated area, because then the blowback against innocent Muslims would be incalculable.
Pig blood nuke
Exactly.
for Islam.
So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.